is a good place to pick up girls because you can really see them. Most beaches are with chicks, and
I have suffered from depression.
We turn now to a nationwide tragedy, suicide.
You feel bad all the time.
Since the year 2000, the suicide rate for teens is up 28%.
Just felt numb to the world. Like, I was surrounded by great things, but just I couldn't be happy.
I've been moving in backward directions. During astral projections, I plaster my ass on the wall for attention. I need faster connections, faster regret. I flash from the gems is if I didn't care what my friends did. Friends I pretend wanna end when you get big. Get slick, get quick, wanna spend shit.
What is mental health? There are different ways of defining mental health. Some definitions highlight positive psychological well-being. Others see it as the absence of mental health issues. For example, the World Health Organization has defined mental health as follows. Mental health can be conceptualized as a state of well-being in which the individual realizes his or her own abilities, can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution to his or her community. Now, what are mental health problems? A variety of terms can be used to describe mental health problems, these being mental disorder, serious emotional disorder, extreme emotional distress, psychiatric illness, mental illness, nervous exhaustion, mental breakdown, nervous breakdown, and burnout. How common are mental disorders? Mental disorders are common in the United States, with 1 in 5 adults having a mental disorder in any 1 year. A national survey of Americans found that 18.5% of adults 18 or older experienced a mental illness in any 1 year. This is equivalent to 43.8 million people. What is the impact of mental disorders? There's a long table of symptoms that are brought up with mental disorders. Usually, a person diagnosed with depression carries an unusually sad mood, loss of energy, loss of enjoyment, decline in social situations, violence against others and oneself, and having thoughts of death or wishing to be dead. Anxiety carries similar symptoms, some being racing thoughts, indecisiveness, anger, confusion, avoidance of situations, and distress in social situations.
Depression is like I've fallen into a hole. That normal life and everybody else is out of reach and I'm stuck on the floor in the dark.
Now, what is a stigma? A stigma is when someone sees you in a negative way because of a particular characteristic or attribute. Mental health stigma happens when a person defines someone by their illness rather than who they are as an individual. For example, they may be labeled psychotic rather than a person experiencing psychosis. For people with mental health issues, the social stigma and discrimination they experience can make their problems even worse, making it harder to recover. It may even cause the person to avoid getting the help they need because of the fear of being stigmatized.
Mental illness isn't pretty and it's not easy or simple. You can't put your finger on it. It's different and personal and ugly. It's not, oh, let's all blow on our thumbs to combat panic attacks, and it's not some cute cartoon girl sitting in a corner and crying. It's so much more complex.
What are some ways that we can break down this stigma? All the time on the news, we hear things like schizophrenic robs bank instead of something like diabetic robs bank. Why is the person with mental illness labeled as their disease? This is a form of stigmatization of people with mental illness. People with mental disorders do not perpetrate excessive crime and are not more violent. Another very important thing that we can do to end stigmatization against mental illness is to have better media representation of mental health disorders. A keen example of bad representation for mental health is the popular Netflix series 13 Reasons Why. This show does so many things wrong and makes suicide seem like a desirable thing. The show makes suicide seem like a logical option, which is completely wrong. As Veronica Sawyer said in the cult classic Heathers,
"Can't you see these little programs are eating suicide up with a spoon? They're making it sound like it's a cool thing to do."
Instead, we should have more shows like the Netflix series BoJack Horseman, which portrayed depression in a very honest way. The creator of the show explained in an interview that he didn't want to give the main character mental health issues for the reason to make a statement, but rather to portray mental illness in a respectful way. I have had first-hand experience with mental illness, as I have friends and family who suffer from specific mental health issues. In 2017, a popular Korean musician by the name of Kim Jong-hyun had completed suicide. I have followed his music career for years. To wake up seeing that he had taken his own life had been so hurtful to me. Later in the year, 3 of my friends started planning a suicide pact. The person leading the suicide pact had taught them how to tie nooses and encouraged them to physically harm themselves. My friend came to me crying one day and told me everything about what they had been planning. She couldn't take the manipulation anymore. I helped her write an anonymous report and led her to the school's counselor's office. These 2 experiences have changed my life for the better. I cannot even imagine a world where the suicide pact had happened. I've tried my best to inform myself as much as I can about mental health. I want to make sure I can help others in a proper and respectful way when they are going through situations like this.